All right, everybody. One of the things I'm going to want you to do in your first Adobe Premiere project for me is import some of your Photoshop documents, some of your projects that you guys created earlier this quarter. And I'm going to want to show you how you can import the individual layers of your projects and then apply some effects to them and make them look pretty cool. So for example here, you'll notice the image that I have up. This is like a wallpaper I made for my computer background a couple years ago of my 3 kids with their names. And if you look in the layers palette, you will see that there's 7 layers. There's a background layer, then there's an image of each of my kids, and a couple of them have layer masks applied to them. You can see that for Alex and Jordan there. And then you'll see I have a text layer with each of their names that I've applied some layer styles to. So I'm going to import this into Premiere and then show you how you can work with each individual layer to have them behave the way you want them to behave. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Premiere now, and I want you to notice I have an image, the PSD version now in here, and I'm going to double click on it. But I've imported this as just footage, which means that everything is sort of merged together. I couldn't, for example, take Alex's name and move it independently of the picture now because it's kind of all one thing. So the nice thing about working in Photoshop with a Premiere, since they're both made by Adobe, is Adobe Premiere can read the individual layers in a Photoshop document. So I'm going to go ahead and double click and go ahead and import it. And mine is just in my pictures folder on this computer, but if it were on a jump drive or something like that, I can get it wherever I need to. Now instead of importing as footage, I'm going to import it as a sequence. And you don't really get this dialog box that pops up unless this is a Photoshop document that you're bringing in. If you're just doing a regular picture or video, it'll just import it into the bin. So I'm going to import it as what's called a sequence right now and click OK. And look what's happened now. I'm going to arrow down here, and it's made a folder with each individual layer. So if I double click on the Alex name one, this is what the Alex name one looks like. If I double click on Alex the picture, you can see that right here. So each layer has been imported right here, and it's also made what's called a sequence. So I'm going to go ahead and open up that sequence right now, which is just like a separate timeline. I'm going to zoom in on it a little bit. And if I go ahead and move the playhead, nothing seems to happen, and that's because all of the layers start and end at the same point. But what if I wanted Joey's picture to come in first? Okay, so for example, I'm going to go ahead and take Alex's image and kind of grab the front of it and drag it backward. And what that's going to do is change when it starts. And so now, let me back Joey's up a little bit. So notice that now the background layer is showing. Their names are still up there, and I'll talk about that in 1 second. But as I move the playhead forward, see how Joey's picture popped in right when the playhead hit his name? Then Jordan's is going to pop in right there. Then Alex, like that. Okay, now if I scroll up a little bit, we can see that their name layers are all starting at the beginning too, but I can back those up as well. So if I wanted their names to also come in at slightly different times, I can do that. So Joe's is going to come first, then Jordan's, then Alex's. They're all going to end at the same point. So if I go ahead now and scrub ahead, you will see how that affects it. Okay, and then I can do some other stuff with this as well. For example, let's say I wanted to have Joey's name have some movement to it. Now, you're not going to know how to do this yet, and that's okay, but I'm just going to go ahead and show you how you can play around with that. So I'm going to go ahead and apply what's called a keyframe. And let's say that's where I want his name to end up. And again, don't worry that you don't know how to do this right now. I just want to show you what's important is you see how you can work with the individual layers with it. So I'm going to move his name around. So now watch what's going to happen here. As I scroll by Joey's name, it's going to start. Actually, let me do just one more thing real quick. So we'll be able to see the effect really quickly. Okay, so now as I slowly move the playhead here, watch, it's going to hit Joe's name. It's going to appear, see how it's at the bottom of the screen. And as I move forward, it's going to move up and into the position where it was. Okay, and you'll notice that Alex and Jordan's names are not doing that yet. And that's because I haven't applied any effects to them. Now, if I were just working with this Passive Yumi PSD here, I wouldn't be able to do that because, again, everything is sort of smushed together. So I can do some cool things here by like fading things in, fading things out, and again, applying movement to them. So you could bring in parts of your image one at a time. You could fade them in, you can blend them together. There's a whole lot of cool stuff you could do with these individual layers from your Photoshop documents. Okay, so that's how you bring a PSD into Premiere and how you edit each individual layer. So have a little fun with that.